few minutes, so just thought we should all say hello.
Hi.
Big group today.
Sarah, you look beautiful.
Thank you. Oh, Tara or Sarah, hold it, hold it.
I thought she was talking to me.
They said
You
Trish.
too.
Anybody who's feeling it, just accept it. You look great.
We're all awake this morning. We all look great, guys. That's step one.
Are we all wearing trousers? That's the question.
Define trousers
Absolutely.
And shoes,
and shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No shoes.
as if I were going to be there in person.
All right, guys, we're going to get started in just another minute or so.
Some favorites out there.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. First and foremost, I just wanted to say hello and welcome to Top of Troy. We are very excited to see all of you. I am Tara Tomsek. I think I know pretty much everyone here. I'm the president and CEO of the Troy Chamber of Commerce. And we are here today to get some wonderful insights from some amazing women leaders. I wanted to say first and foremost as well that we could not have done this without platinum members. So thank you for their being a part of the chamber and for all of the wonderful things that they do to keep programming like this alive. And we are really excited today because we have a wonderful presenting sponsor, which is Consumers Energy. And I'm going to pass this over to Lauren. And Lauren, if you want to give us a little brief of what's going on with Consumers Energy.
Absolutely. Good morning again. I'm Lauren Royston, Community Affairs Manager with Consumers Energy. We are honored to partner with the Troy Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for having us. First time as a Top of Troy sponsor and allowing us a space in this virtual format. You know, I love and value the relationship we have at the Chamber, and I absolutely adore all the staff, and I've missed you all. So, but every time I get a chance to address this chamber audience, I like to share a little bit more information about Consumers Energy so that you understand that we are more than the folks that send you the monthly utility bill. Because, oh boy, according to those predicted forecasts, this winter is going to be a doozy and you will be receiving a bill. But people, planet, and prosperity, that's our triple bottom line, and we live and use as guiding pillars. So speaking of people, today at this Women of Influence event, I'm proud to share that earlier this month, Consumers Energy was recognized by Forbes magazine as Best Employer for Women in the Utility Sector. And additionally, Consumers Energy tied for third best employer in Michigan as the best place in America for women to work. And that's according to the newest ranking from Forbes magazine. So this is a huge accomplishment and further supporting the position as a company committed to leading the way in diversity, equity, and inclusion in Michigan and the utility sector. So, and along with that, Consumers Energy, they changed their parental leave policy just this past month, allowing birthing mothers 6 months paid leave and 4 months paid leave for non-birthing parents. So really wanted to show some of the key steps in tying it into, you know, a great place for women to work. But continuing with the people focus, just yesterday, Consumers Energy announced they are providing $12 million to help Michigan residents and small businesses with energy bills, making an unprecedented commitment to helping customers and communities with the COVID-19 pandemic that may have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So Consumers Energy has set a goal to help about 25,000 households and 1,000 small businesses with this new assistance. And so the funding will go directly to customers in need and to Michigan nonprofit organizations. So the best way for people to get help is to call 211, which is a free service that connects people with nonprofit agencies in their communities, including this new financial help Consumers Energy is announcing. So also since March, Consumers Energy and its charitable foundation have now provided over $16 million to help Michigan residents. And we've also mobilized to respond to our customers' needs. We suspended energy shutoffs for non-payment for residential and most business customers. We made payment arrangements for customers in need, and we provided access to federal, state, and local resources that can help small businesses. So when we say people, planet, and prosperity, the people means you, our neighbors, our customers, and us, the employees. So, and then finally, I wanted to share to small businesses that Consumers Energy is beyond energy. We support your business. And to access those resources I just mentioned, or to access new business opportunities through Pure Michigan Business Connect program, or to find incentives and instant rebates on a range of clean energy programs that can help you save energy, money, and the planet, please look us up, consumersenergy.com/business, which will connect you with all of our available business resources and services. So again, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing this program that we have today.
Thank you, Lauren. And wow, you guys are doing so much. So I knew I was a fan of consumers, and now I'm actually okay paying my bill. I love everything that you're doing. That's fantastic. So thank you so much, Lauren, and thank you so much, consumers. Guys, just a reminder, in the chat button, make sure that you put your name, your contact, and your company. We will be sending out the chat at the end. And also, we have some great panelists today. I know we have lots of questions for them. If you have a question, please make sure that you also put that in the chat, and we will ask those questions at the end of the program. But I am now going to pass this over to the Women's Business Forum Chair, Christina Concord. Christina.
Thank you, Tara. Welcome, everybody. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Women's Business Forum, who puts on this event and all other events. So we put on 4 events through the Troy Chamber. And we have an amazing group of women who work tirelessly to help put together these events. So I would like to thank all of our committee members for helping to plan this event and all of our other events we had last year and the years before and our future events. So our mission in the Women's Business Forum is to provide an environment for education, networking, and philanthropic support for local business women. And today, our philanthropic component is to donate a portion of your ticket price to the Troy Chamber's nonprofit network to support all the nonprofit companies in the Troy community. So now, without further ado, I am super pleased to introduce to you the amazing Lady Sarah, who will be our moderator today. So everyone, please welcome Lady Sarah.
Okay, you can clap, cheer, throw your kids in the air, silence your dogs, whatever. Wonderful to see you all, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Lovely to see you too. We're going to jump straight into it with our first first competitor, I was going to say, our first guest. Wow. She earned her MBA in finance at Dartmouth and is a certified financial planner. She is experienced and knowledge in the whole scenario of finance and gained her experience over 25 years, not only here in suburban Detroit, but in New York City. She's the Vice President of Private Client Services in Sequoia Financial Group. Please raise your hands for Laurie Marshall. Laurie, lovely to see you. How are we doing?
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
You're looking great. We're on Zoom. It's all going well. I just wanted to jump in before we get the other ladies involved and just ask you, going back into your career, if I may, what was your greatest influence? If you look back now after those 25 years plus, what do you think your greatest influence was?
I think probably my greatest influence was going to an all-women's college. I had some resistance to women when I had some math teachers in high school, older men who I think thought young women weren't too smart. I also had my best friend's father who said, "Oh, you're going to college to get an MRS," and that wasn't my plan. I went to an all-women's college. I followed a good friend out east, and it was probably the best decision I've made in my younger life to have no barriers to what I could accomplish.
Yeah, It's so important, so important. And thank you for that. We're going to join you now with a lady who is the CEO and co-owner of a company here in Michigan. Her story started with Office Express over 17 years ago, and she got her education here in Michigan at Baker College. So again, please put your hands together for Anna Singhara. Thank you. Anna, where are you? There you are. Hi. Are you okay? Can we hear you? Perfect.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Anna, again, starting with you, you know, Laurie talked about leaving the state. What do you feel your greatest influence was all those years ago?
You know, honestly, I don't know that it was one thing. You know, I think it's a mixed bag of things, mixed bag of situations and circumstances, and adversities.
Yes, yes.
Working through life.
So sometimes it's hard to put your finger on these things, isn't it? We have to go back and look at family and education, all sorts of things. So let's join us now with a lady who has, who's published her book back in 2017. It's 170 pages, a must read for those who need to lease office, industrial or retail space. She became a commercial realtor. I have a real struggle with that word because we call you something different in the UK, in 2001. But after 15 years in corporate real estate, she is with Compass Commercial. Please show your applause for Lynn Drake, President. Thank you. Lynn, I really messed that up, you know.
Oh.
We call it estate agents, and I struggle with realtor.
Actually, a realtor is more of a residential term, and you have to belong to a certain group to use that name. So real estate agent. I'm a broker, real estate broker. How about that?
I've really got to work on my terminology. You know, I've been here for a while. We speak the same language, but it's
not really.
No, we gave you a language. What happened? I don't know. Anyway, Lynn, tell us about you. Tell us about your greatest influence.
I was thinking about that. There were so many things. There's just a couple quick things. My family, my parents, both entrepreneurs. My mother was one of the first women in financial planning. She was the first woman hired by Merrill Lynch to be a stockbroker. My father owned his own business, and his father also owned his business. So there's a kind of a family thing going there.
Right.
And I think someone that truly influenced my career was I had a coach, and I was with a big commercial brokerage firm, and he said, "Why are you there? They're doing nothing for you, and you need to go find something else to do."
Yes.
And so Compass Commercial was created from that conversation.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And last on this panel today, we have a lifelong Michigan resident who joined HAP in 2001. She is the Chief Information Officer. Please put your hands together for Annette McCarth. Annette, where are you? There you are. Perfect. Lynn's got that wave going. Well done, Lynn. Excellent. And what about you, Annette? What do you feel, or who do you feel was your greatest influence?
Yeah, well, so good morning, everyone. I would say, to be honest with you, it does change throughout your career. Mine started, I would say, with my family and my mother. She was, she was a homemaker, but certainly an influence in my life where we wanted to say, make her proud. And from there, my career and just the people that I worked with provided me some great opportunities. And, being part of a team where you're successful just led me down to certain paths. But I think it changes as you go through your career.
Yeah. And let's just carry on with that theme of your past careers, ladies, because I'm just wondering if you think it's easier for young women today. And I was wondering if you could share a story that might surprise people about your earlier life. I mean, for instance, Lynn, did you always expect to go into the industry that you've gone into? Or was this a surprise for you or something you planned?
It was a complete surprise. My undergraduate degree is in accounting, and I thought I was going to be a CPA.
Right.
And then I started working for a big steel company, and we had these, before computers, guys, these massive spreadsheets. And I was writing every time they cut a piece of steel, and I said, I will kill myself if I do this the rest of my life. So I decided, my parents had also been investors in real estate. I decided I would find a job in real estate, or I would go back and get a master's degree. I didn't know what real estate jobs were. I just thought that I would like it. Found an ad in the paper, got hired, and that was the start of my real estate career.
And you were off.
Yep.
And Laurie, for you, obviously education was a huge aspect to your life, but did you always know that this was the field you were going for?
No, I learned early on that I was good at math, and I like having a black and white answer. Am I right or wrong? And so I originally thought I wanted to become an actuary, and I started at MetLife in Manhattan many years ago. I quickly learned that I'm way too social for that. I'm not a green eye shade person. I love people. I love relationships. So I put in my time, and then I went to business school. So I broadened out, and I had an opportunity to do something different. But I think, I'm echoing what the other women are saying. We do change, and we find what's the right next step.
Yes. Yes. And for you, Anna, definitely things have changed, haven't they? Can you share a story about the early days before your current position, before you run the whole thing?
So, the early days, most of my jobs were administrative, customer service type. And in the industry, we do office supplies, office furniture. Early on, I worked for a very large corporation. And I was actually on the line, packing boxes. And so I've done all sorts of things in the industry. And when I first took the job, I had been laid off from a tier 2 automotive company. So I took this job as a customer service rep in the company 18 years ago, and thought, this is going to be temporary. I'm going to do this as temporary. I don't know if this is what I want to do. And here I am 18 years later.
And there you are, you've evolved. The company. So lastly, Annette, just finishing up with you as we finish looking at this section of our current employee or the past employers before we look at the current. Do you think it's easier for women today? I mean, did you find it hard starting off in?
I think we've made some strides as far as women go in business. When I first started in the industry, it was pretty male dominated. And we're still, heavier on the male domination there. But, again, we're making strides. I think, is it easier? I think hard work and determination are what, make it.
Absolutely. So let's look at the current then. And Annette, for you, some of us were around through the financial crisis. And now we have a different time of adversity that affects each one of us. One aspect of today and how it impacts our life, I'd be really interested in your views on this from the point of view of HAP. What challenges are you affected or encountering today?
So I would say probably the biggest is the working virtual remote. So we had stood up a new office in Troy back, it was last year already. It seems like time goes really fast, but a beautiful facility, and now we're all working from home. So just kind of working through the dynamics of not interacting with people on a regular basis, and the coffee room chats that you don't have. It's more forced conversations that what we're finding is even meetings, right, to have a casual conversation, you almost have to schedule time. So I'm just trying to figure out how to continue to foster those relationships, while we're all working from the comfort of our living rooms, wherever it is, kitchen tables, what have you. But it's a big change, but I think we've done a really good job as an organization, and very proud to be part of Henry Ford Health System. Certainly, with the pandemic and being down in the Detroit area, it was pretty amazing to see how the group there really managed and navigated through that.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And what about for you, Lynn? I mean, you've dealt with times of adversity, and we've now really got some interesting times of adversity. How do you feel you've learned over those years? What have you learned how to deal with these things?
With adversity?
Mm.
You know, one of the things I learned early on, which you know, I was in trucking in the 80s. I was one of trucking real estate. I was one of 5 women in the United States. And if I took issue with everything a man said to me, I'd have been in trouble. So what I learned to do with the adversity is I learned to listen to ignore some of the words they said, and then look at their intent. And if I looked at their intent, often it wasn't the way that was coming out. And I think you just have to adjust.
Lynn, that's great words of wisdom. That's really a real nugget there, is to look at the intent and not the actual words themselves. That's fantastic. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Laurie, how are we going to move forward? How do you move forward in times like this? You're juggling your personal life, your business life, all from a home office, I'm presuming. How do you feel that that's going?
Well, yes. So we are actually, our office in Troy is open.
Right.
We have started kind of rotating through. As a firm, we're encouraging people to come back to the office if they're comfortable. We've got, you know, like all of our companies, we've got people with serious health issues that are not comfortable coming back to the office, even though we're doing all the things with keeping things clean and wearing masks in the hallway and that kind of thing. So we're trying to encourage our people to do what's right for them. From a client standpoint, we've invested a lot in technology, and so being in touch with our clients is one of the most important things for us, especially with the market downturn that happened several months ago. So we are using WebEx like crazy. I'm FaceTiming some clients who are more comfortable with their iPhones. Or conference calls, and there are a few prospects and clients who want to get together and come into the office. So we have socially distanced conference rooms and spray and everything. So keeping in communication is really the key for us, for our employees and for our clients.
And I think you're right. Communication is what it's all about at this time. It's keeping in touch with people, seeing how they all are.
Right.
And adapting. Anna, you must have adapted tenfold in this time. I mean, I can't imagine how an Office Supplies or Office Express has coped. Huge deal.
It's been challenging, yeah. You know, we've had to pivot, refocus,
Yes.
bring on new items that maybe weren't quite the focus before. You know, we've done, of course, a lot of PPE, and you know, I make the joke a couple of weeks ago, if I could get a truckload of disinfectant wipes, I'd be, you know, golden.
Yes, it is about just changing it up, isn't it? And working with what you've got. There is nothing else that we can do.
Definitely.
So tell me, ladies, you know, as we look forward and your career paths when you look forward, tell me about your thoughts on that. Yours certainly haven't stagnated or stilted. They're not, you've gone on a path. But do you think the competition for jobs is so much greater? I'm hearing from our millennials and our Gen Zs just how competition is out there. Again, Lynn, what do you say to that? I mean, you were one of a few women in those early days. Now the competition is huge. Women are out in the workforce.
Competition for jobs?
Yes.
Well, as an employer, I haven't applied for a job in 20 years or 10 years, excuse me.
True.
As an employer, I actually find it very difficult to find people to work. Before the pandemic, it was almost seemed like 100% people were employed. So, but I think there's always opportunities. And I think particularly for the young people, if you lead with your successes, you're going to always be successful.
Yeah. Yes, that's a good thought. And Annette, for you in your industry, I mean, how are you finding that? How are you finding that younger generation coming up? Are there many of them champing at the bit?
It is tough. We were working really closely with intern programs, right? Getting people directly out of college. The dynamic nature of some of those individuals coming out of college and just the fresh aspect they have on life it's very refreshing, and it's a good thing. But yeah, we're finding internship programs are very successful kind of as a feeder into our environment. But it is tough to find people, that sometimes want to even stay in Michigan. And we find from a healthcare perspective and in technology, it's hard to compete with like the Googles and the Facebooks of the world. And now even more so, now that we're kind of demonstrate that people can work remote, we're not just competing in the, geographic Michigan area, we're competing more on a national level. So it presents some interesting dynamics for us from a technology and a healthcare perspective. But like I said, when you get some great talent from these local colleges or even outstate, it's pretty amazing to watch people grow in their career.
And they can come from anywhere now, can't they? That is the joy of remote.
Yeah.
Laurie, what do you think is their greatest influence, their greatest source to get out there and get into the job market? I mean, building work communities, or what do you recommend for the young generation?
So I think my piece of advice is just, I love to connect good people. I love to meet people. I get energy from other people. That's why part of this working at home is really hard for me. But I think making connections, and I think the other thing is you don't have to know exactly what your next step is. So 5 years ago, I was miserable at a huge firm. I wanted to do something different. I didn't know exactly what it was. I talked to a friend of mine. I was very frank. I said, I don't know what my next step is, but this is what I don't like about what I am doing. And he said, well, I'm going to introduce you to someone. Many of you know Leon Lebrecq, who is the guy who was introduced to me, and that was just supposed to be, talking like ideas. And I ended up joining what was LJPR 5 years ago. Now we're Sequoia, but I think a lot of us think we have to know what the next step is, and I just like to say to people, it's okay not to know what the next step is. You know what you like and you know what you don't like. You can share that with people and ask for help. Yeah. I mean, I think any of us on this conference would speak to anybody else who's here and give advice and share ideas and meet for coffee. That's how that's how most of us became who we are, because we used our connections, or we,
yes.
Worked the network that we build.
You're absolutely right, Laurie. And another great nugget there is, it is your connections, isn't it? It's your influencers, your mentors. Anna, did you have a mentor that you still go back and see or talk to, or do you mentor others?
I do. So, we had a couple of young sales reps that were just kind of moving into that position, and I've mentored them daily. Also, as far as my mentor, I had a friend of a friend who spent, a good amount of time with me, and she had mentored him years prior, so it was a good connection, and I still have the option to reach out and run things by her, and
it's so important to keep up those contacts. So important. And of course, we've got that running through the Troy Chamber all the time, with the networking component to the whole industry and business. So let's go back and talk about day-to-day. Lynn, how are you coping with the whole day-to-day Zoom culture? Is this working for you?
Well, like Laurie, I'm an extrovert to the 10th degree. So I'm sure you didn't notice. And I will tell you, I was actually on a cruise in Central America when this all broke out. And I came back and my entire business was completely gone. And I think I spent at least 2 days like sulking. And then I said, well, this is stupid. Get over yourself and get busy. And then I got on the phone. I made 600 calls. I researched stuff for people. I just reached out. I couldn't stand being on Zoom, and now I can be on Zoom for 4 hours and I can tolerate it. So you just get used to it, right?
You just get used to it. You do, and you just have to be aware that it's your top half that people are looking at. That's all you need to worry about. Annette, how about for you, your day-to-day? How's that working for you?
Yeah, I find that my whole day is consumed with just conference call, whether it's Zoom or Teams or WebEx or what have you. What I find working in technology, it's fascinating to see how these technology vendors have adjusted their platforms to kind of accommodate our needs and how quickly they change it. So, I sometimes don't miss a little bit of the drive in, but I would say I'm more of an introvert, but you miss the daily interactions of people, and trying to force that. I find that, even turning the camera on with Zoom is really important. It's really easy to just keep it off and, you're sitting there or whatever, but I think that's an important aspect of it, to kind of keep that connection, as even as little as turning the camera on.
Yeah, it's an accountability, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Keeps you accountable, and a reason to put your makeup on as well. Obviously. So let's just regroup here, ladies. Many aspects and influences in your lives, education, family, have been huge. You're certainly suggesting, as Laurie did, that you don't have to plan the next 5 years. You can just keep going. And as we've seen through adversity, you have to just keep going and evolving and adapting. But let's talk about those out there who are marketing themselves or who feel they need to move on and move forward. We've talked about technology updating with the Zoom culture, but how do you market yourself? Obviously, Lynn, you don't market yourself personally with your own business, and for you, Anna, as well. But tell me, Lynn, do you use technology? Do you promote yourself on social media? Is it something you use at all?
Yeah, when I actually opened my business, that same mentor said, you need to get on to social media. So I have evolved over the years, and it even got too big for me. So now I'm outsourcing it. But yeah, I think social media is critically important. It's a great way to meet people. I think, trying to think of some other ways. LinkedIn is where I get most of my contacts. So that's what I've been using.
Yeah. Better than Facebook. Let's not mention Facebook.
Well, for commercial, I do commercial real estate, not residential. If I was a residential agent, it would work. I think it depends on what you're doing, frankly.
Yeah.
And I work with business owners, so LinkedIn is my place.
Nice. Annette, for you, do you use social media much? Are you?
I use LinkedIn, but I am not probably as good at it as I need to be. I do think those relationships and establishing those connections, I agree with Laurie's comment, right? Any of us would sit and have coffee with someone to try to help connect the right people. But I do find in the industry, whether it's through conferences or things of that nature, those relationships and maintaining those networks is critical. It really is. And I think LinkedIn is a good avenue for that to happen.
Perfect. I know LinkedIn will be very pleased with this thought. Anna, are you there? Are you out there on social media? Are you snapping or just strictly business? No Snapchat for you?
Well, yeah, strictly business. We have a wonderful, marketing person, and she handles all of our social media. Of course, much like the other ladies, I'm on LinkedIn. And
yeah.
I do have that, and you said not to mention it, but I do have, a Facebook page, but,
It's quite important, though, to keep yourself current and relevant on these platforms, I feel, even in this time when we're using them, sometimes daily for contacts. Laurie, is it something you update daily, or do you not deal with social media at all?
I use LinkedIn. I am not very comfortable with sharing all the personal details about myself on other social media. So I think, as others have mentioned, it's about building relationships, especially if you're in the financial advisory business. And I don't think that happens on Instagram or, other social media. I think on LinkedIn, you can share ideas, and through our firm, we have a website, and I've done podcasts and that kind of thing, but I'm not a huge other than LinkedIn user. It's just not a comfortable thing for me, maybe because of my age, but I kind of stay in my lane with.
Oh, no, I quite understand that. I just wanted to regroup for those of you who are joining us. We have before us 4 phenomenal women, and Laurie Marshall from Sequoia Financial was just talking about social media there. Laurie, I know that also you're very involved in local stuff, as it were, the community. And I'm just wondering what Sequoia you're most proud of that they do for the.
I think throughout our firm, we support a number of nonprofits. In Troy, it's been the OCC Foundation and Toys for Tots and those kinds of organizations. Many of us do our own. I sat on the board of Common Ground, which is a Oakland County mental health nonprofit for 8 years. So I think it's really important to be engaged in the community personally. And, you know, as a firm, we also have a matching program for our employees, you know, do their own donations. But it's a big part of who we are. It's supporting the community.
And this whole Zoom today, there's a portion of this that goes into the nonprofit network. Anna, you're also very involved with the community. That's an important aspect for you.
It is. You know, I could talk about the many charities and nonprofits that we support. And I also personally work on the advisory board for Families Against Narcotics, and I'm also a family recovery coach with them. So, you know, we do a lot of support there.
Perfect. And Lynn, what about Compass? Are you involved very much with the nonprofit network?
I have spoke at that, and nonprofits are actually my passion.
Right.
So for a regular client, it has to provide a certain amount of income that a lot of the nonprofits do not. And I'm always ready to step in and help them. And I have a lot of nonprofit clients, and I'm very proud of being able to help them.
Perfect. And then we talk about burning desires, ladies. Where do you feel your career is going to go next, or what would you like to still achieve within your career? Annette, maybe you could speak into that.
That's a good one. So, you know, I feel like when I look at technology and healthcare, things are changing at such a rapid rate that I always think that, you know, it's going to stabilize, but it's not. With the amount of data that's available, you know, through all kinds of different means, the opportunities to use that data to, I'll say, improve the health of our community and individuals, that I find to be very exciting, and we're kind of on the cusp of a lot of that information. So just hanging around for that is what excites me.
Just waiting for that, just waiting for things to change.
It is, yeah.
Lynn, what about you? A burning desire that you have to move forward on still?
I have written one book. I have a second book coming out regarding real estate, but what I'm really excited about is I'm writing 2 other books. One of them is How to Create Your Own Life. That's a motivational book. And then the other one's called Next, Finding Your Ideal Mate. And I've been having a lot of fun writing these books. And I'm really excited when I can take them public in a couple of years.
So it really is something totally different, something way away from the business.
Yes, yeah. What I want to do is I want to help people find what their inner strengths are and help them create themselves.
Yeah.
You know, so it's the second half of my life.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you need a life coach, obviously Lynn's moving into that whole section now. Do put your questions in the chat, please, because there may be many questions that they'd like to ask you about that, Lynn. Laurie, what about you? A burning desire, something you still want to achieve?
I think I would say I love my work. I love the firm. I continue to be very engaged. We're building a mentoring leadership program for the women in our firm across the country. So also outside, I feel like helping young women, similar to kind of what Lynn is talking about. I think we can all make a huge difference when we mentor young women and help them, you know, make good choices or think about things that, you know, we all have so much experience. I just want to help young people, you know, make good choices. So that may be something I spend more time on. I probably will go back on a board in addition to working, and someday I'll probably start my own little jewelry business.
Wow. Wow, totally out of left field. I wasn't expecting.
Totally out of, well, it sounds like it's out of left field, but for me, not so much. It's kind of been hanging around there for a while. So.
Okay, fine. Gosh, my goodness. And Anna, I mean, as owner and CEO of Office Express, where do you see yourself going from here? What else do you want to achieve? You're involved, you're counseling, you know, you've got 2 sons, I believe, and some grandchildren as well. What next for you?
Ooh. So, you know, we at Office Express, we have a drive to, you know, fulfill the needs of people that are just trying to fulfill their purpose. You know, work gives people purpose, and, you know, we want to do that on a larger scale.
Yeah.
I want to grow. I want to expand, and you know, on a personal level, and the work I do outside of work, you know, I just want to make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm getting that feeling from all of you ladies, is that you want to make a difference, you want to give back, and that's a great thing. That's a truly, truly great thing. I'm just wondering about words of advice. We talked about the younger generation coming back. What about the women getting back into the workforce? You know, this is a very difficult time to be thinking about that and thinking about how they can reinvent themselves. We talked a little bit about how you promote yourselves, or don't, as it were, on social media in some cases. But what advice would you be giving to women going back into the workplace after maybe months off with bringing up children, whatever, or maybe just who are stagnating a little? Annette, do you have some words of wisdom there that you could speak to them before?
No, it's interesting because I kind of thought about this a little bit, because my career, I'll say, took a dip right when my kids were younger, you know, stayed home with them and never left it entirely. But I agree with you. That's there's a lot of programs and things available for women that I've seen, have been exposed to, that kind of helps them kind of retool themselves at times. I think it's also important to kind of look at what's happening in the area and the environment to try to figure out where you should be focusing your energies as far as careers. Once again, I'm familiar with technology. There's certainly, you can't do anything without technology. So becoming familiar with that is just really important in almost any job. And I think it's like, I hate to say, a little bit of hard work and leveraging those relationships that you've had, whether it's through you know, volunteerism and, you know, meeting people that way and opening doors. I just think building the relationship and developing a network sometimes affords you opportunities that you may not have otherwise been exposed to.
Yeah. Yeah. And Lynn, obviously you're writing books about the whole subject, but how do you feel that how women get back involved in the workplace? What would your advice be?
My advice would be, make sure you are passionate about what you are doing. I love going to work every day. I'm not telling you I don't have a bad day.
No.
I do once in a while, but I really love it. When I turned 40, I actually climbed a mountain, Mount Tohipi in the Pioneer Mountains, and we did an hour of silence at the top. And when I sat down and meditated for an hour, I realized I had a great job. I realized I wasn't passionate. I didn't like it. I needed to find something different. So came down, somebody gave me this book, Know Your Strengths. And the people called me when I did the test and they said, you're in the wrong field. You're supposed to be in sales. So I moved to sales. You have to find what you're passionate about, because you're doing it every day and you don't want to be, it's like when I was working as an accountant, for me, it was horrible. Right. Do what you love. And this is a great time to make a change while the whole world is changing. And the other thing too is, if you're a young person, like when someone was working for me said, what degrees should I get? I go, it doesn't matter, get the degrees, because what I'm doing today wasn't even invented when I was your age. So just go find something that you like and just pursue it.
That's very interesting, and that is certainly something that we're my culture back in Europe is very hot on that. You get the degree, you're going to study it for 3 years, so enjoy it. What the employer's interested in, there is work experience, obviously, but there is that aspect that you've completed a degree, and over here it's 4 years that you need to keep going. So you need to find something that you enjoy as well. Interesting. Laurie, for you, would you agree with the education component for those people going back into the workforce?
I think less about what's important for education. I think about finding great people to work with. I think, you know, you can be passionate about something, but if you're not with engaged people doing that, it's really hard. So you have to find who are your people and what kind of people do you want to work with. And so you know, we're all nodding. So my advice is get out there, talk to your, you know, your connections, your network, your people, and find people who share the same passion and are very engaged in what they're doing, and you will have a great time. I mean, I love going to work every day. We all have bad days, and that's usually when I say I need to go for a walk or something like that outside to kind of manage that. But I say find a pack of people that you just really enjoy, and along with the passion that Lynn mentioned for the type of work itself, and you're golden.
Thank you for that, Laurie. People do, ladies and gentlemen, do feel free to put questions into the chat. We will be stopping in a few moments and looking at those questions, so it'd be great to hear from you. Anna, do you employ a lot of people who have come back into the workplace, or did you take time out when you had your kiddies?
Yeah, we do have a couple that you know, were out of the workforce for a while. One of our interior designers has re-entered the workforce in the last year, and you know, she's wonderful. I'm so glad, you know, we took a chance and got her into our company.
It's such an important thing, but it is finding that passion, as Lynn and Laurie said. I think that's so important. So important.
You know, I think too, you know, don't be afraid to try something new.
No, and as you said, ladies, now is a good time to do that. Now is a great time to do that, to take that break, to take that deep breath, and to look out and see what you really are passionate about. Just one sort of question that I know many people have asked before, but is there a book on leadership, or a podcast, or some form of something that people can read or look into that has encouraged you over the years? Is there a particular book, Annette, that you've reached for every time?
Well, you know, it's funny, I was looking through the books last night because I you know, between Leaning In and Strength Finders and Good to Great, I think they all have different impacts on where you're at in your career. But I would say most recently, I would say the Lean In book. I mean, it just it was refreshing to see a woman be so successful and recognizing that you could have a family at the same time. And I think sometimes I've looked at that in my career and have struggled thinking, boy, you can't do both. And the reality is you really can. And as a woman, it's harder, but it's certainly something that is very possible. And I try to, you know, keep that forefront for my team members at time that is important, and you can do both. You don't have to give up one for the other.
And that's very true. That's something that we skipped over, really, is that juggling your personal life with your work life. Lynn, as president for Compass, is that a struggle for you, or was that a struggle for you?
I was raised by a mother that worked, so it was not a struggle in any way, shape, or form. But I do want to share a book with you.
Yes, certainly.
Okay, there's this author. This is a super old book. It's called Momentum, and it's by Rich Fettke, F-E-T.
I'm hoping someone's putting that in the chat.
K-E-Y, Rich Fettke. And it suggests that you use extreme sports to overcome adversity and to create your best self. And so that book had major influence on my life. I've climbed mountains, I've walked on fire, I've jumped out of airplanes with my son. Using extreme sports makes your life exciting, and it also teaches you courage. And I learned that from that book.
Perfect, perfect. I have a brother who lives in the Alps, and that is his whole life is extreme sports. He climbs up mountains, he has a parachute on his back, and he jumps off.
Ooh, now that I'm not going to do. That's the only.
That's exactly what our mother says. Don't do it. Sorry, that was a little side note about me. Laurie, a book that you recommend?
So I actually have a couple recommendations. One is this book called How Women Rise by Sally Helgeson, who actually is from Michigan State, and Marshall Goldsmith, who wrote What Got You Here Won't Get You There. I read it recently, and it's about women's habits that we tend to have, and just from the stories that are in the book, you can kind of identify what you are or what you have. Like I suffer from perfectionism and ruminating, and it just helps you identify those things, so then you can kind of work on them. The other thing that has I think been important for me is the Becoming book by Michelle Obama. I'm also a listener to her podcast. She has some great ones about women and working and women and families. And I think she says a lot of very brave things that, like when she said she was depressed, had low-grade depression about what was going on in the world a few months ago. I think that just gives the rest of us permission to say those words out loud. Yeah. And so those are my two recommendations.
There are some great podcasts out there, and I do enjoy Michelle Obama's. I think, that's something you can listen to wherever you're going. Right. Anna, a book or something that's encouraged you over your career?
Actually, so recently as a team, we are going through the book, The 12-Week Year. And so rather than trying to plan a whole year out, we're taking 12-week chunks and just tackling those feats and then moving on to the next 12 weeks. So
perfect.
We aren't fortune tellers, and
no. So, and we want to look at short chunks of time. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And Annette, I mean, you obviously read a lot. Do you find that particularly helpful in what you're doing, or is it more one-to-one contact with people when you're networking? I mean, which would you rather do?
I think it's more the networking. I mean, I do like to read. I think it kind of reminds you, sometimes it just reminds you of things that you should be doing. It's just a refresher. And I do think that, because sometimes I find myself and other women, apologizing for everything. I'm sorry. And I really make a mental note. I mean, I will certainly apologize if it's something I've done wrong, but instead of leading with that, you kind of really make yourself think twice. So I love books because it does remind you of those things that it just kind of grounds you. But I do think the relationships, nothing can outweigh, sitting down with someone, having coffee or, drink at night or what have you. That's more important.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. And then, ladies, we just look forward again, just one last time, of how we're adapting to this new normal, how we're coping with this. You've suggested that we just get on with it in some ways, and you're right, technology is adapting for us. But are there any nuggets that you can suggest to people on how they deal with this new normal? Laurie, I don't know if you can speak into that at all.
I think I don't have any pearls of wisdom. I think it's just about one step at a time. And I love Anna's planning, 12 weeks, because we don't know what's going to happen next year. We barely know what's happening next week. But I think being okay with that, like giving yourself acceptance that, we do just have to go one day at a time or 1 week at a time, and make our best decisions as we go through all those days. I think we all have layers of complexity in our life, whether it's our children, our spouse, our parents. There are a lot of things going on, and I think we have to try to balance those things. If there are struggles, like I'm struggling with my mom a little bit right now, I have to also do the good thing, the happy things, like go visit my daughter at college.
Yeah.
You know, so I think the more we can try to balance the struggles with some of the good things, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
You know, in my work and my personal
And
life.
it's that balance, isn't it? It's something that Lynn said, you know, this is what you do, this is what her mum did, this is what she did. But there is still always the struggles. We have to keep going, ladies. We have to pick ourselves up and keep moving forward. Again, I would ask folk out there to put your questions into the chat, and Christina will bring those up in a minute. I just want to round off with the secret to your success. I know that's bizarre, but tell me, what do you think the secret to your success is? Maybe we can start with you, Lynn, at Compass. What do you think the secret is?
There's no secret. I just simply could not fail. I could not let myself go back into a corporate environment because I'm an entrepreneur. I didn't have a choice. I just keep going. And then when this situation happened recently with this change, I actually went back to my coach so that I can make sure I'm going to be the best at doing things, because I've been doing this for so many years. But there's no choice. I mean, I love this. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to fight and do whatever I need to do to make it work.
Wow. Wow. Okay. That's it. That's it. We're just leaving. There's no secret whatsoever. Anna from Opposite Express, tell us, what's the secret? What's your secret? Or do you not have a secret? Was it a matter
I have to agree with Lynn. You know, it's no secret. Hard work, lots of hard work, determination, not hesitating to work for what I want, and not being afraid to ask for what I want, and you know, always trying something new, not being afraid to try that something new. I was a single mom, raising 2 boys, and you know, again, like Lynn, I had no choice. I had to do what I had to do and make it work.
Yeah, and you know, CIA for Health Alliance Plan. Tell us, what's your secret? You have risen within a huge organization.
Yeah, I do think, I mean, it is the hard work. I agree with, you know, Lynn and Anna. I think it's hard work, but you also have to be willing to put yourself out there a little bit and take a chance. I think the quote was right, chance favors the prepared. So you have to be prepared when those opportunities present themselves. And I'd say my advice to young women, even to my daughter, is if something comes up, don't doubt yourself. Put yourself out there and take that chance, because if you don't, someone else will take it, and then you're going to be left in the dust. So you know, sometimes you're going to be successful with that and sometimes not, but you really have to put yourself out there, and that's sometimes really hard to do. It pushes yourself outside of your comfort zone.
So we can't fail. We have to work hard, put yourself out there. Laurie, a final thought on that secret to your success?
I think for me, it's optimism and collaboration.
Right.
I'm a super optimistic person, and I think where there's a will, there's a way. And I've got great colleagues, and we work as a team all the time. And those are my 2 keys. And I'm still going to be optimistic. Still going to love collaborating with great people.
Yeah.
So
keep moving forward. I wanted to turn to Christina right now and say, Christina, do you have some, I mean, I can bring up this chat if you'd like, but is there some particular questions that have been raised?
Yeah, we do have a few questions, but wow, ladies, that was amazing. Can you guys do me a favor though and put those book suggestions in the chat? That was one of the most things, and I could not keep up writing them down. I should have typed them. Sorry, people. So our first question that we have, we've all experienced roadblocks in our career. Can you talk about some of the roadblocks and what you did to move past it?
Lynn, I know that you've talked before about when we had a private chat the other day about roadblocks and things that you'd had to deal with. Do you want to share briefly how you'd come to terms with those roadblocks or how you dealt with them?
Well, back in 1987, I worked for a very large trucking company that was international. And I was one of 5 women in the United States that worked in trucking real estate. And there were a lot of challenges. And I think I mentioned earlier, you just got to look at really what people are saying to you versus what you're hearing. But I decided I was pretty successful there, and I didn't feel that I was making enough money. So we're talking like 1989. And I went and I got a list of what the jobs should pay in my industry. I took it to my boss, and it was taken to HR. And they said I was right, and my revenue income went up really significant. Now, when I took it, I also I did this, this, and this for you guys, and this is what it says I should make. I also, by the way, had paid for all my own education in my distinct industry, because commercial real estate, it's very unique and very different. It's not something you would just go into. So, yep, they gave me the raise, and that's a lot to say back in 1989, working in an all-male industry. So if you show them what you've done, and it's a good company, they will give you a hand up, I guess.
It goes back to Laurie's point about surrounding yourself by good people, but also communicating. You know, you need to go and put the legwork in, and we've all said that it's hard work. Laurie, back to you on answering that question. Sorry, Christina, do you want to just repeat the question? And then,
yeah, no problem. So we're talking about roadblocks. Can you talk about some of the roadblocks in your career and how you moved past it, please?
Yeah, so I have a really, I mentioned before, I love math. I have a kind of a planning mindset. And so when I feel like roadblock is coming, oftentimes we can identify those roadblocks. So I would, you know, I might see something on the horizon, and I try to plan what's my next step going to be. So if something's not going well, or if I sense, I mean, I've had situations where I've been on a team, and I had the fit hasn't been right. It hasn't been the right people that I've been with. So I start looking for the next thing. And, you know, my dad always told me from the time I was 18, you don't leave one job until you have another. And so, you know, when I've had the opportunity to, you know, look, as I see something on the horizon that I'm not happy with, I look for what's the right next thing. And I think following your gut on those, you know, if you're not with good people, if you're not feeling the passion and the, you know, enjoying going to work, then you have to proactively look for the next thing.
Yeah. Annette, you must have dealt with a few roadblocks along the way. How do you speak into that?
Yeah, I would say too, maybe it's different, but similar to Lynn, technology has been kind of a male-dominated industry. And many times you'll go to events and you'll be the only female there. So part of it is, I think it is just kind of, I'll say, earning the respect of individuals and not letting that influence what you do and how you behave. So just continuing to work past those barriers. And I would say kind of scenario planning, kind of laying out what I think 3 steps are going to be from now, and make sure that you're kind of prepared for whatever path, and you've had an opportunity at least thinking through it in your mind. So, but there are certainly barriers. But once again, to me, you have to have hope and optimistic that things will go the right way. And if not, you adjust and you course correct.
We're hearing that time and time again, isn't it? It's hard work and moving forward, hope and optimism. I love that. Christina, what else do we have in the chat?
We have, what advice do you ladies have for work-life balance?
Well, we talked about that a little bit. Anna, you've got 2 sons, 3 grandchildren, is that right?
3, correct.
3. How do you juggle that?
Oh boy, very carefully. It's challenging. You know, early on when my boys were young, I was so focused on work, and I think I sacrificed some time with them.
Right.
So now today I do try to make sure that I do balance that. you know, rather than working 18 hours a day, you know, maybe it's only 10.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. That's a really difficult one, isn't it? I set up my first business in London when my kids were 2 and 4, and I'd put them to bed and then I'd go into the office and work till midnight, and it wasn't good. It wasn't a balance at all. There was no balancing. Laurie, what about you? How are you juggling life? You obviously like people, need to be surrounded by people, but how do you work?
So my husband retired when our daughter was born. She's now 19. So I've always been the primary breadwinner, and so having him at home has made me very free to work. I was always present at my daughter's events when she was growing up, and that's really important that our kids know we all, you know, need to be there for our kids. And I think by being there for our kids, by blocking off the Halloween parade or whatever, the parent-teacher conference, we're also role modeling that for the other women in our firms. And that's a very important point. We are all role models, and what we do, people watch, and they notice. And so I think demonstrating the balance at work is, you know, helps the other people in our organizations see that it's possible.
Yeah, Laurie, you're right. You're the role model, and people are learning from you, not only your own family, but also your employees. And Lynn, you spoke about that with your own mum. You saw your own mother working hard and being that role model for you. And now with Compass, I'm presuming you're a role model for many women out there.
When one of the things that I do each Friday night, before I leave for the weekend, I have this list, and I put on there my top 3 things in my life: health, family, and wealth. And I have what I'm going to do in each of those categories each week. And sometimes I get out of that family, so then I pull it back in. But I also was a single mother when I started my business. I ran the business out of my home for the first several years while my son was a teenager. That helped tremendously. Get away with much. But but I think
you jumped out of an airplane together. So, you know.
We did. That was his graduation gift. We actually, the whole family went, all my brother's kids and mine, and we all went together and did that. So, and I'm proud because my son is a millennial, and he's already got his first home, and he's 25, and he has definitely become engaged in his life. And I'm hoping that I helped set that for him and how to have a family and a business.
Yeah, and that's something we mustn't forget as well, is role models to our boys as well. I have 2 sons, and I think that's just as important as role models to our women, to our girls. And it's that balance, isn't it? That balance. I know, Christina, there was Brenda Meller put up a chat. I saw it very briefly. Have you got that question?
I do have that question. It's actually our final question, and I know we have a little bit more time, so if anybody else has questions, feel free to put them in the chat. So Brenda's question was, what is one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Oh, Annette, do you want to start with that? What piece of advice would you give to your younger self if you were starting now?
Well, I would say mine would be just to have a little more confidence earlier on in my career. You know, it took a long time to feel like, wow, I'm okay with what I'm doing, and I think I'm okay. You know, I'm pretty good at it, but it took a long time to come to that. And I wish I would have taken a few more opportunities or chances earlier on in my career, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Anna, what would you say to your younger self?
I have to agree. Take more chances. Take more chances, and don't hesitate to try something new.
And that's something, again, that we can do right now. Laurie, your younger self, you took yourself off to...
I think for me, it's being confident in my choices. And we've kind of alluded to it. I think some of us have spent time in different industries before we got to where we are now. And all those experiences make us who we are, right? And so I didn't follow a straight line path, but all my experience in New York City, lending money to private equity firms, and then my experience as a consultant, and all that led me to be the person I can be at Sequoia. And that's helped as we've gone through the merger. That's helped me build client relationships, all those things. So I think just knowing along the way that all these experiences are helping me become like who I'm meant to be, and not questioning that, like, should I have gone on a straight path?
Yeah.
Who knew what that would have been? I
Who
mean,
knew what? And I think that's the trouble. We question ourselves, and the younger
Yeah.
person in us always questions. It's that bit of confidence. And as you all said at the beginning, it's surrounding yourself at early stages with people who matter, getting that confidence from your mentors, from your family, from your education as well. Lynn, for you, what about for you?
I have always taken the steps in my career that everybody told me not to take. And I think particularly like young people, anybody that wants to be an entrepreneur, all your friends and family, mine didn't, but most friends and family are gonna tell you, do not do it. Because my son keeps getting this. Do it. Follow it. Do not listen to what other people tell you to do because you have to live with those decisions. And if you let other people make your decisions, you're not going to have a happy life.
Yeah. I noticed actually, Christina, one of the questions from Monique Harlan actually spoke into that, because she said, please speak into doing what you love and get paid for. Lynn, when you're being told to go in one direction, but you love something else, you're in a difficult position, or even those going back into the workplace, you feel you should go in this direction. How do you deal with that? How do you practically reconcile what you love or what you think you love to what people are telling you?
You just have to try it and see if you love it. I think I saw too out there, somebody was asking about money. I got to tell you, I left a corporate job, and the best I could expect, which I did make, was $20,000 in my first year as a real estate agent. That was a far cry from what I was making, but I did it. And I'll tell you, one year at Thanksgiving, my husband wanted to go and put boxes together for the poor, and I had no money. I mean, let's be honest here. I had no money. I was having Thanksgiving dinner for 20 people. I had no more credit cards left. I had nothing. And I remember throwing those cans in these boxes because I was mad. And I was like, God, why did this happen? But I kept going. And believe it or not, 2 days later, I got a weird refund check for $150 that paid for dinner. We never had that situation again, but you just can't stop. I just kept going.
Yeah, just keep going. Believe in that passion. Laurie, for you, I mean, words of advice for those people who, trying to find that thing that they love.
I have had a similar situation to Lynn, maybe not quite as dramatic, but when I moved back to Michigan after 9/11, our daughter was quite young, 6 months old when that happened, and we decided we wanted to come back here. I went into a brand new career. I had been more in corporate finance, and I came into, working with families and individuals. So I was kind of starting over. I hadn't lived in this community for 21 years. And so I kind of started over. But I knew I had worked with a career coach, and I had identified what were my skills and interests, and financial advisor was exactly the intersection of my skills and interests. So I knew that it's what I loved. I had to learn from the ground up, how to do it, how to do it well. And so you do have to stick with it, because now, many years later, it's absolutely what I should be doing. But it probably was not a great financial decision for me when I moved back here, honestly, but it's what I chose to do. And so that, you know, money is hard, and you know, we all make mistakes, but if you look forward and say, what can I learn from that, and how can I share what I've learned with other people, that's the best way I know how to move forward.
Yeah. And Annette, for you, I mean, how did you find what you loved? Or do you feel you found what you've loved? How do you balance that with the money aspect too?
Yeah, so, you know, it's interesting you say that. I think I found what I love, but I do, I always want to aspire and achieve more. I would say that's a little bit of the work-life balance, right? If you don't love what you're doing, it's harder to maintain that balance, and the kind of blurring those lines between what you're passionate about and kind of what you do with your family. I think that's really, really important. But yeah, I think I have found what I love, but I am also looking forward what's next, and, you know, and maybe early in my career when things were a little crazy, I thought, boy, when I retire, all I want to do is sit in a nursery and rock little babies and feel comforted by that. It's very different now. I'm looking for how can you give back to the community a little more, but you work an awful long time that it has to be something you're passionate about and that you like doing, or, you know, it's just really not worth it. You have to look for change if it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Anna, do you have something to add into that about, you know, the whole subject? I'm trying to bring up how you find what you love and getting paid with it, the balance there.
Sure. So I was scared to death, honestly, when I was first approached to, you know, move into sales. And I knew, you know, I loved working with people and, you know, brightening their days. And I thought, but oh my gosh, this is a commission job, and I need my steady income. But I went into it and worked really hard at it, loved it. And, you know, it was a discovery for me, like, oh my gosh, I really love doing this. And someone saw something in me that I didn't quite recognize at the time, but I took that leap, and I do. I love what I do, and I love helping people.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's finding that passion, isn't it? It's absolutely finding that passion and working hard at it. Christina, do we have any other questions that came up?
We do. So this is from Lisa. Several of you have spoken about career coaches. So what made you seek one out, and how did you find one that fits your needs?
Career coaches, that is a big topic out there. Lynn, do you have a career coach, and they helped you find your passion, or?
They didn't help me find my passion, but being the only, I worked for other brokerage firms for 10 years before opening my own firm, and they don't train you. That's not part of it. And I needed training to be successful, I felt. I think the universe sends the right person to you when it happens, because this coach that I've been talking about, Rod, he actually was advertising on some LinkedIn or something for my industry. And he was exactly what I wanted, and he showed up exactly when I needed him. He's the one that I give credit for a lot of what I'm doing now. And I went back to him because now I want to make sure that I'm still up to date. Because I think it's important, particularly as we're getting aging here, that we are up to date with the young people, so we can do what they do.
Yeah. Fantastic. And Annette, do you have a career coach or somebody that, I mean, we talked about mentors earlier, but.
Yeah, so I did have a career coach for a while, and I think it's really good because it challenges you to look at things a little bit differently. As much as sometimes you think you're heading down a right path, they always offer a different perspective, and I found it to be very helpful. So, you know, if you have, I know there's sometimes usually a cost associated with the coach. If that's not available, then I would encourage people to look for that coach or mentor. Can offer the same sort of advice and wisdom, but it definitely is helpful because it makes you, like I said, look at the world a little bit differently, sometimes a different perspective.
And to show you different strengths that maybe
exactly.
know before. We talked about finding those different strengths, and sometimes we need that career coach or whoever it is, the mentor, to find those strengths. Laurie, you talked about mentors, but a career coach?
Well, I worked with someone in my transition to come from New York back to Michigan, somebody here in Michigan, and it was through Right Management Consulting. They do a lot of work for big corporations when groups of executives are being, let go or whatever. It's part of an HR type thing. I got a favor through a friend of my husband's to work with one of the people at that firm. And that's when we did all the assessments that kind of helped me identify what was the right next role for me, not what was the right next firm, but what was the right next role. And that was where the intersection of the skills and interests came in. I have not worked with a coach since then. I've thought about it, but I have not done it. I do a lot of kind of group work with some alumni from the educational institutions I've gone to, and that's kind of similar.
Yeah.
But I don't have a coach right now.
Right, right. Christina, I was going to wrap up right now unless you've got a question left. I mean, there's been so much information here, ladies. It's hard work.
One of them is on the topic of mentors. So have you ever had sponsors in your career, and do you consciously sponsor other women in your industry? We could do that one real quick, I think.
Yeah,
and then we have
Anna, do you want to talk into that? Do you have a sponsor in your career? She's finding that mute button. No? Are you there, Anna? Technology.
Hi. So a sponsor, I don't think necessarily a sponsor. Yeah, I mean, just I've been blessed with a lot of great influences, throughout my career, and a lot of consultants that I've worked with and other industry people, but not a sponsor.
No.
Right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I would say that our roundup, our takeaways from so much of this conversation is about finding your passion and following it. And from these great women, we've learned that they've learned so much through other people and now influencing others. So do reach out to them on good old LinkedIn. Do talk to them. I know that they would be very happy to chat to you about that. And Christina,
one more.
Oh, go on then. I was doing the big roundup. I'm in.
I don't want to leave anybody out. I know you're going to do a roundup.
One needs to do the roundup and then leave with a big round of applause. Go on, go for it.
Okay, so real quick, what advice would you give to someone in their 50s who may want to change careers at that point in their life?
Well, obviously none of us are in our 50s, but Lynn, maybe you could help. Go for it, Lynn.
Do it. I left at 40. I left corporate America. At 50, I left working for as a 1099. Do it. Love it.
Perfect. Laurie, our final word. Come on, Laurie, say something dynamic.
Well, I don't know if I can say anything dynamic, but I think we're all here to help, and it's never too late to find your passion. I mean, we all know people who work into their 70s. They love their work. So if you're in your 50s, you've got 20 more years. I mean, I can't imagine ever stopping doing something involved, in the community. So I say go for it. Talk to the people in your circle, get introductions to other people, figure out where you want to go. It doesn't, like I said before, it doesn't hurt to say, I don't know what's next.
No.
Figure it out.
Lovely. Thank you. On that note, Christina, I'm going to hand back to you. And again, thank you, ladies. It's been a delight. We've learned so much. And I look forward to talking to you again. Christina,
thank you, Sarah.
Amazing talk. Thank you, Laurie, Anna, Lynn, and Annette for coming here today and speaking to us about your amazing stories. We appreciate it. We appreciate you. We appreciate you, Lady Sarah, for being an amazing moderator. And thank you, everybody else, for coming and attending this awesome event. So I guess that concludes our meeting today, and we hope to see you again in the future.
Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Christina and the Women's Business Forum for putting on such a wonderful event. We appreciate it. Guys, we have lots of upcoming events, so please make sure you go to troychamber.com. We have one tomorrow as well, the Stroll Walk and Talk. That is actually presented by Chief Financial Credit Union. We have our CNN on October 6th. We have a collaborative event with the Southfield Chamber on October 15th. We have Troy Restaurant Week, October 18th through the 23rd, and that is presented by Sequoia Financial and Imagine Theaters. And finally, we have talked so much about giving back. So just so you're aware, $5 of your ticket is going to go to the NPN Network, which is our nonprofit members. And we have a nonprofit conference coming up presented by PNC on November 10th. There are lots of opportunities for you to come learn from some amazing presenters. And also, if you wanted to sponsor a nonprofit to come to the conference, you have the ability to do that as well. And guys, I just wanted to say thank you so much. Everything you talked about was so dynamic. I learned so much. I will look ahead without being scared to make mistakes and get out my way, but I will not jump out of planes, Lynn. And thank you.
It's fun.
Wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, Tara.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Bye, you guys.
For having us.